Nina has been calling with a fight for you. How do you feel about that fight?
Yeah, good. I mean, she's just got to wait her turn. Like, I got my plans that I've already had, to do this year. I did want to get 2 fights out this year, but it looks like there's only going to be 1. So, yeah, I'm just going to get my voluntary out and come back from my injury. It's going to be nearly a year now that I've been out. And then, next year I'll look to unify.
As you can imagine, Nina Hughes, reigning WBA Bantamweight champion, is none too pleased that there's been a snafu, a delay in her unification efforts with her stablemate, matchroom stablemate at least, Ebony Bridges, saying Ebony just wants easy fights with other OnlyFans boxers.
Not an accurate observation of Ebony's quality of competition so far, as long-reigning champion via the IBF.
Maria Cecilia Roman, an OnlyFans model, Shannon O'Connell. Ironically enough, Shannon O'Connell used to make the same kind of comments about Ebony that Nina is now making, and it didn't work out for Shannon.
May not work out for Nina if she's not careful.
Ebony is coming off of that hand injury and a subsequent hand surgery that followed. It looks like she's only gonna fight once, just once this year.
It's unfortunate.
Last year was a big year for her. This year, not so much.
Nina's not happy.
She's currently under orders to satisfy her mandatory challenger in the form of Jamie Mitchell, the woman she beat for the WBA title 1 or 2 fights ago. 1 or 2 fights later, she's got to fight her again, where she had hoped she'd be going into a unification match.
I don't blame her for being upset, but these comments
that Ebony Bridges only fights OnlyFans models, or that she wants to fight OnlyFans models. Melis Gangloff,
Maria Cecilia Roman, Shannon O'Connell.
These are respectable names. Respectable fighter for what is a fighter, a champion that got off to a late start in the sport. Ebony don't come from some deep amateur background.
In that way, she's already overachieved, becoming IBF champion.
Before that, some people might have told you that Ebony ain't got no shot. She ain't got no shot at winning a belt from nobody. As it happens, she won her belt from the longest reigning champion, at least at that time, at this weight.
Ebony, Nina, Dina.
There are 3 champions in the women's bantamweight division here today. Only one among them is unified. Ring Magazine, lineal, and unified champion of Denmark, Dina Thorsland, who was in action not but
just a few days ago in Denmark. Dina Thorsland and Yuli Hangaluna, then WBC champion of Mexico, shared the ring with each other. Dina won a one-sided decision.
She's unified Ring Magazine and lineal champion now, so here's what I think.
What?
If Nina's not having any luck with Ebony, beyond her upcoming rematch with Jamie Mitchell, if she wins and she stays WBA champion, if she's really got a hankering for a unification match, Dina's right there, and I'm sure it's a fight that Dina would be receptive to.
Nina was ringside for this past weekend's unification match with Dina and Yuli Hangaluna. She was there.
You say that Ebony Bridges don't want no parts of you. You say that she only wants to fight OnlyFans models. Irrespective of whether you're right or wrong, if you're not having any luck with her, there's Dina Thorsland.
3 belts on the line.
Nina Hughes' WBA title and Dina Thorsland's Ring Magazine, WBC, and WBO titles.
Is Dina.
Being honest with you, I'm a big fan of Ebony Bridges, but I'm also a big fan of Dina Thorsland. All things even, I view a Dina Thorsland fight as a more difficult and dangerous fight for Nina than an Ebony Bridges fight.
Dina's younger than the both of them.
Lighter on her feet than the both of them. She's got power like they do. She's got power like Nina Hughes. She's got power like Ebony Bridges, but she's bouncier.
Lighter on her feet.
Faster too. She's got faster hands than either Nina Hughes or Ebony Bridges, and she's not limited to boxing mid-range to inside the way they do, even though she has a propensity to box mid-range to inside.
Both Dina and Nina are managed by Lee Eaton.
That's a big part of the reason that Nina seems to have a lot more energy for an Ebony Bridges fight than a Dina Thorsland fight.
Pretty awkward.
Awkward for Lee Eaton if 2 of his fighters were to fight each other.
Dina and Nina.
But it's an option. If Ebony Bridges ain't giving Nina the time of day for whatever reason, whatever's going on, fighting Dina Thorsland is an option.
Not the most desirable, though. As stated, a Thorsland fight, for me and my money, that's a much, much harder fight than a Bridges fight.
It applies to the both of them, really. It applies to Nina just as much as it applies to Ebony.
If Ebony Bridges has any plans to unify, a Nina Hughes fight is an easier fight compared to a Dina Thorsland fight.
Because Nina is many years older than Dina,
A bit more flat-footed.
Nina's a pocket-sized fighter that favors fighting in the pocket, just like Ebony Bridges. She wouldn't be as hard to find in the ring as Dina would.
You know, If Ebony wins her next fight and Dina makes it through hers, that rematch with Jamie Mitchell, they really should settle up with each other.
They should. And if Nina's still not having any luck with Ebony next year, well, Dina Thorslund, she's there and she's an option. Men's welterweight and super middleweight news. Canelo Alvarez on Crawford says, other than Spence, I don't think he's beaten other great fighters.
Canelo Alvarez was among the first to pick Terence Crawford to beat Errol Spence Jr., and he was among the first to give him his flowers, to lavish praises upon him.
Now that Terence has expressed a desire to move up in weight and face Canelo, things have changed. Since that fight, Canelo has been mobbed with questions about Crawford being the best fighter in the world. However, Canelo stands firm that nobody can compare their records. No, look, like I always said, I respect Terence Crawford, Canelo told TMZ Sports. He's a very talented fighter, but he won just one big fight. If you see his record, he just beat one good fighter, one in Errol Spence Jr. Other than that, I don't think he's beaten other great fighters like Spence.
I feel like Canelo Alvarez has a better resume than Terence Crawford's resume.
It's a better resume with more familiar names, and just as, if not more champions than Terence Crawford has fought, but it's the performances that separate them.
Terence is rarely in a close fight. Being honest with you, I can't remember the last time he was in a close fight.
Perhaps Canelo has a better resume on paper, but in terms of performances, Terence's performances are often more dominant
Against champions.
Before he can think about Crawford, Canelo is focused on the upcoming task at hand with Jermell Charlo. Jermell is a great fighter, he's a talented fighter, and he's undisputed in his weight class, Canelo said. It's going to be a good fight, so I'm happy to be in this kind of fight, in the big fights. The fight is almost here, so I'm excited. I'm excited because I feel great. If Canelo is successful later on this month, he left the door open for a potential showdown with Crawford by stating, "We'll see."
Stated. On paper, Canelo has the better resume, but in terms of performance, well, Terence Crawford's performances are often more dominant than Canelo's.
Two ways you could look at that, two ways to interpret it. You can interpret it as Terence being a better pound-for-pound fighter than Canelo Alvarez, or you can interpret it as Terence's quality of competition not being on the level of Canelo's quality of competition. It's two ways you can look at it.
Terence caught wind of Canelo's comments.
He responded to them by saying, "Here we go with the I haven't fought nobody but Spence talk. LOL. Y'all so delusional, it's crazy."
Terence doesn't have any close calls like the ones Canelo had with Austin Trout, with Erislandy Lara, the controversial draw with Gennady Golovkin.
His performances are often more dominant, more decisive than Canelo's, though at the same time, how many times has Terence fought fighters like those fighters and where they were in their careers when Canelo fought them? Austin Trout was undefeated at the time.
Erislandy Lara was a high-risk, low-reward.
Cuban southpaw, a boogity man, as was Gennady Golovkin, a wrecking machine, an unbeaten one. At the time that Canelo fought him, you say that Canelo has more close calls than Terence Crawford does, but is that not to suggest that Canelo's opponents are better than Terence's opponents? There's an argument there.
Terence wants to fight him.
Amir Khan.
It's Khan.
Amir Khan warns Terence Crawford to avoid making the same mistake he did of moving up in weight to fight Canelo. Amir Khan is a common opponent between them. Both Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford knocked out Amir Khan.
It's Khan.
The Bolton Star believes Crawford should avoid the scenario of moving up in weight to fight Canelo. There were rumors that I was hearing that Crawford may go up to fight Canelo as well. I like both guys, and I think Crawford should not really give that much weight away. It's too much. I've tried it myself. I've done it myself. At the peak of my career, I had a great win against Chris Algieri, and then I went up and fought Canelo, Khan explained 2 seconds out. Canelo is scheduled to return this month on the 30th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas in a world title defense against undisputed junior middleweight Jermell Charlo.
Crawford wants to fight him.
He wants to roll the dice the same way that Amir Khan rolled the dice with Canelo Alvarez. What was it, back in 2016?
Listen.
Terence Crawford's resume compared to Canelo's resume, there's room enough there to debate. There's room enough there to discuss. The Terence Crawford's performances are more dominant than Canelo's, but isn't Canelo's quality of competition somewhat better than Terence's?
And because it's somewhat better, Wouldn't that explain why Canelo's fights are closer? Maybe it's because he's fighting better fighters than Terence is?
You say that Canelo Alvarez has 2 career losses on his record.
But look at who he was fighting. Floyd Mayweather, the #1 pound-for-pound fighter at the time when Canelo was only 23 years old.
Was Crawford fighting when he was only 23 years old? Who was he in there with? Was he in there with the #1 pound-for-pound fighter at the time, like Canelo was? You say that Dimitri Bivol gave Canelo a loss not that long ago, but that was at Canelo's 4th weight.
Doesn't that count for something? That at his 4th weight, that's where his next loss came, against an unbeaten champion in Dimitri Bivol. How will Terence Crawford fare at a 4th weight?
At the same time, irrespective of career blemishes, Terence ain't got no ped scandals, no banned substance controversies like the one Canelo had in between the first Golovkin fight and the second Golovkin fight. So there's definitely room for a debate. There's room to discuss. Though ultimately, Terence don't want to talk about it. He wants to roll the dice. He wants to step into the fire. He wants to fight Canelo.
Here's the problem.
Your longtime trainer Bomac McIntyre just got himself arrested in the United Kingdom with possession of a firearm and ammunition of a firearm. How does that affect Terence Crawford moving forward? I still think Terence, even without Brian Bomac McIntyre in his corner, I still think he can beat Spence in a rematch.
Because he has all the experiences from the first fight to draw from. He's already been in there with this guy. He knows who he's dealing with. But with somebody like Canelo,
it's a different kettle of fish. It's a different kettle of gravy. It's no harm to say that Errol Spence Jr. ain't no Canelo Alvarez.
he ain't no Canelo.
Going into a fight with Canelo, if Canelo so chooses to entertain Terence, that would actually be the biggest fight of Terence Crawford's career, not the Spence fight.
Spence fight would seem like small potatoes next to a fight with Canelo Alvarez.
Need all hands on deck for that one. It's an interesting fight because I feel like Terence Crawford has the right base style for the job, the foot speed, the hand speed, the ring savvy.
He's just not stronger than Canelo, nor is he as durable as Canelo. I don't think he's as durable.
If he could stay on the balls of his feet, sticking and moving from the outside, out of different stances, out of the southpaw stance, out of the orthodox stance, keeping Canelo moving and not allowing him to set his feet, he could, in theory, win a points decision. But Canelo could knock him the fuck out in theory.
We're gonna be theoretical.
Neither would surprise me, because they're both that good. These are not ordinary fighters.
Maybe Canelo's annoyed that en route to one fight,
The journos are already looking past that fight and suggesting another and another and another, which is tell-them age for Canelo Alvarez. This is what people do.
so he gets annoyed.
Just in keeping with the theme of all things Terence Crawford, Jermell Charlo on Terence Crawford, I commend him. You went in there and you beat the big fish. But what now?
He may go into another Errol Spence Jr. fight without Brian Bomac McIntyre in his corner. And by now I think that Terence can take care of himself, at least ahead of a Spence rematch. But beyond that,
A fight with Terence Crawford obviously makes sense. Charlo said on $1 million worth of game. I commend him. You went in there and beat the big fish. You beat the dog. Whatever contract y'all agreed to, you have to fight him again and get that out the way. And maybe, since you say you want to chop down, walk up that field, I'm a bad motherfucker. I don't care what he says. I'ma get in there and dog his ass out. Little ass motherfucker. He talked some shit. After that fight, he got on top of the ring, pointed, and making all this attention.
like I could run in there and talk shit back to you.
Probably not going to be able to hear me. Obviously, it didn't make any sense, but I clapped for him, told him congratulations. He bowed, gave me my respect, and he moved on.
I want to say that I like the person that Jermell is becoming, being more gracious with the pundits, more gracious with the fans, more gracious in his demeanor.
Giving Terence Crawford his flowers in spite of Terence beating his stablemate shows growth and maturation. So often the Charlo brothers as a package were viewed as the bad boys of boxing, which don't often make for the best ambassadors for the sport. But Jermell, I feel like he's grown much more than his brother.
It's a good thing.
I'm cool, Charlo said. I'm always run with my teammates. If Terence was my teammate and I didn't fuck with Errol, I would give Terence the love that he gets. That's just how it is. Hey, bro, you're fighting my dog. Now, my man has to put his life on the line. That's how I feel about it. He's gonna have his beefing drama. He's gonna feel some type of way. I don't give a fuck about what he says or does. That doesn't bother me. You won your belt. You won it at 140. Hey, if you want to come up in weight divisions and try to fight someone as big as me and as solid as me and as gifted and talented like me, then
Then he's gonna run into a problem. problem, I'd say.
You know, if Jermell Charlo pulls off this miracle and beats Canelo Alvarez, there could be a second fight. There could be a rematch. I could see that happening, which would delay a Crawford showdown.
But it would set it up. It would help to set those events in motion. If Jermell beats Canelo, if he loses to Canelo, I've said it many times, I'll say it again.
Canelo sold 800,000 pay-per-view buys with Caleb Plant. I think he could do the same or better numbers with Jermell. Maybe a little over 1 million. Maybe.
That doesn't just benefit Canelo, it also benefits Jermell. Jermell will have made substantially more money than he's ever made for any fight on any given night. So you think...
Having made all that money, potentially losing to Canelo Alvarez, potentially by way of knockout, you think he's going to be in any hurry to rush back to the ring to boil down to 154?
You stupid?
No, I don't have Jermell Charlo winning the Canelo Alvarez fight, and even if he does, we're still a ways out from what would be a Crawford showdown. For me and my money, Canelo wins the fight, and Canelo is a very different fighter than any fighter that Terence has faced so far. He may have slower feet than Terence Crawford, that's a given, but he's got better head movement, better upper body movement, to slip and hook, roll and counter.
Protects himself a lot better than anybody Terence has fought so far.
With more power and more durability than anybody Terence has fought so far. He's not as textbook and conventional as Victor Postol.
Not as open for counters as body shots like Julius Longdongo. Not as open for counters as Errol Spence Jr.
Nowhere near as easy to hit or easy to find in the ring as Jeff Harn.
It's an intriguing fight.
Because stylistically, I feel like Terence has the right base style for the job. That doesn't mean he has the size, power, and durability as well.
Tackling this entire Bomac situation. He's had Bomac in his corner for as long as I can remember. How's he gonna feel if this jams him up?
You don't go to the UK. You don't go to any foreign country with a firearm in your luggage. And if that's not the case, if he purchased a firearm while he was there during his stay, you don't go to the airport with it. You don't try to come back to America.
It was fucking stupid.
This might jam up Bomac for the next 3 to 5 years.
I hope it doesn't. I hope he finds a way to beat the rap and he gets extradited back to America.
I hope he does, but I'd be lying to you if I told you that I'm not worried about him, and I'm not worried about how this might affect Terence moving forward. It will be a novel sensation not having Bomac in his corner for what could be even bigger fights than the Spence fight. What could be a Canelo fight or a Charlo fight.
No Bomac?
Can beat Spence. I still think he can beat Errol Spence Jr. without Bo in his corner because he already beat him. He knows how to fight him.
But what about these other guys?
Hoping for the best, but planning for the worst is in order because we don't know what's going to happen to Bomac McIntyre.
Stupid, man.
It's damn stupid to carry a firearm in your luggage at the airport.
Come on, Bo.